In January 2025, my neighborhood, Malibu, was hit by one of the greatest natural disasters in the whole of American history, which was the Palisades Fires. Many of my friends and neighbors had to relocate, and it was an incredibly traumatic time for all of us. My guest today, the amazing woman on top, Livia Pillman, was one of those unfortunate people that lost their home. And she has such an incredible story of resilience and courage as she moves forward with her life. She's an actress and model. She's graced the covers of so many fabulous and famous magazines, and she has a movie coming out. So join us and let's get some tips and get inspired with Livia, because this is a young woman with so much to share. Remember, hit subscribe and join us for more stories at Confessions at the Cabana. My name is Zoe Scott, and this is my podcast, Confessions at the Cabana. I was born in England, and I chased my dreams across the ocean, landing in America, and then driving all the way to California to live my rock and roll life. I've journeyed from living in the wild to lighting up the stages all around Los Angeles, and I've got plenty of stories to share. But this podcast isn't about me. It's about creating space for others to share their stories, stories that inspire, stories that bring us together, and stories that heal. So come join us here in Malibu at the Cabana. Woohoo! Welcome, Livia, to the Cabana.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. You are such a special and inspiring individual. I'm so excited you're here. Where did this amazing journey begin? You started modeling, right, when you were 15?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and have a little conversation about my life, my journey. Yes, I was actually born in Hungary, so
Do they have rattles in Hungary?
they have a lot of shamanic ceremonies and it's very deep in the culture.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a
Wow.
Hungarian witch. You didn't know?
I have Irish roots.
Oh, you do?
Despite my bleach blonde Californian hair, I have Irish roots.
You do? I would have never guessed.
Yeah, and so I'm passionate actually about Native American shamanism. I trained for about 20 years.
Ooh.
And
Interesting.
It really, I really resonates with the Irish, the Celt in me.
Yeah.
So did you grow up with some of that? Tell me about your upbringing.
So I grew up like in Hungary, in the countryside. So I grew up in a village with 500 people.
Wonderful.
So the fact that I'm here today, it's already a miracle,
Wow.
Because people just, they're born in this small village. They end up finishing school, getting married, getting kids. And that's it. People stay in comfort zone. They're not looking to travel. They're not looking to achieve something or dream, So I always felt like I didn't belong there,
Ah,
I always felt like I was a little alien,
really?
Yeah, and I was always dreaming big. And I remember when I was like 5 years old, I was looking up on the sky and I saw these airplanes passing by. And I was like, you know what? One day I'm going to be up on that airplane and I'm going to be traveling the world,
Do you feel like you fit in anymore? Or you still got that feeling like...
I somehow ended up at this acting class. And that was the first time that I felt like...
This was in Hungary, was it?
No, this was in LA, in Los
LA.
Angeles. Yeah. And that was the first time that I felt like, you know what? I actually feel comfortable here. Like, I am not the only one who feels like out of place.
Out of place, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I strongly believe I come from the Pleiades. Where it's a bunch of stars and, and these people are supposed to be very loving.
Very loving.
Yeah, healers.
I heard that too, that I look like the
we're
Pleiadians and I'm very tall and,
So going back to your childhood, you were a real wild card then. If you just...
Definitely, yeah.
Were people... what age were you when you started modeling?
So I was like
How did that all happen?
Okay, so I was like a tomboy, I was playing soccer with the boys on the street. I was climbing up on trees and playing on the street with the boys. Like I didn't care about modeling at all,
Wow.
And I was like so far from it, you know? And then
Wow.
when I was 15, I was shopping with my sister in Budapest in the capital. And somebody came up to me, but I had so many people come up to me before, like, hey, I'm a photographer, I'm an agent, and I was just like, no, not interested, no, 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 no. And
You are
like,
very beautiful, so
oh,
I can imagine you really
thank
are a
you.
goddess.
Well, at that
Yes.
time, I was like a very skinny young girl with braces and glasses, believe it or not.
Wow.
Got a name card, and like an agent came up to me and she's like, hey, if you want to be like a model, like, I have this agency, call me. And that was the first time that I could sense a possibility in it. Like energetically, I just followed
You
it
felt it.
energetically. I
Yeah.
felt something.
I'm like that. I follow the energy.
You
That's
know,
yeah.
because before I got like 4 cards and photographers, and I was just like,
didn't-
and then there was no
That's
questions.
the witchy woman, you see.
Yeah,
The
the
intuition.
intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just followed the energy, and I was like, okay. I felt something, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call her. So on my way back home, by myself, bear in mind, I'm 15. I just gave her a call. I'm like, hello. Yes, I'd like to come in for a meeting on Monday. And they're like, what time? I'm like, 11 a.m. sounds good. And they're like, okay, we'll see you at 11 a.m. Sounds good.
Brilliant. I like it.
I just did it myself.
I get your spirit. You have
then
this wonderful spirit.
Yeah,
That's
I was
wonderful.
like, let's rock and roll. You know what I mean? So I go home and I told my mom, and they're like, okay, I have a meeting on Monday. They're like,
Were you nervous at all?
a little bit.
Did it feel like a big door was going to open?
No,
or so?
I just kind of like, I just did it, And I told my mom and dad, I'm like, hey, I have a meeting. And they're like, what meeting do you have? You're 15. And I was like, well, with a modeling agency. And they're like, okay, take your sister and just,
They didn't take it seriously.
No. And thank God they were like loose. They were not the strict parents because they were like allowing me to experiment, So I was like, okay, cool. So I went there, and I could just like, I showed up, right? And right away they offered me a 3-year contract and they're like, we really
Wow.
want you. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, I guess I just, jumped.
You signed it.
I
there.
just signed it. No,
Wow.
actually, wait. Actually, my mom, oh my God, bless my mom's heart, but she's very like a difficult person.
Right. My mother was very difficult.
Oh
my
God.
mother was very strict.
Oh my
and
God.
I modeled not to the extent you
Yeah.
did, but a little bit when I was younger.
You got into it a little bit?
A little bit.
And how was
she?
she?
was strict.
She was strict, no?
Yes.
Yeah, like she's like, I don't want you to sign this contract. And I'm like, Mom, because she's like, because modeling contracts are very strict. Like you can't change your hair, you
Really?
cannot color your hair, you cannot cut your hair. It's very
Wow.
like limiting,
Yeah. Wow.
So like basically like they kind of own you, like that's what's written on the paper.
Wow.
But every modeling contract is the same.
Does
pretty
it
much.
talk about things like weight or?
Yeah, you have to keep the same weight and like kind of like you can't cut your hair without permission of others. So
Wow.
it's giving up a lot of your freedom, you know.
Wow. Who would have known that? Because in my day, which was a long
Really?
time ago,
What was that?
They didn't have.
They didn't have that?
Yeah.
Was this here in Los Angeles?
No,
or-
it was in London.
In London,
and,
okay.
and Italy, actually.
Okay. So then my mom is like, you can't sign this contract. And I was like, Mom. And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to sign it anyways. And she's like, no, because this. And then she's like, no, you can't sign it. You have to like have them cross things out. I'm like, listen, Mom, I'm signing this either you like it or not,
Wow, yes. We're feisty, aren't we?
So I was just like, listen, I'm doing this, And she saw that there was no way out. So she's like, fine, just sign it, I had to bring that rebellious
The
energy
fire,
out,
the
the
energy.
fire. And then she's
Talk
like,
about
okay.
it. I came to California in my 20s to make rock and roll like the Doors.
Yeah.
And
I
it
love
gave
the
my
Doors, by the way.
mother a heart attack. I lived in a cave, and I remember in the Mojave Desert, I remember my mum standing outside the cave crying and saying, whatever makes you happy. So
No way.
these
yeah.
poor European mums,
Yeah. They're not used to the freedom and
Yeah,
the
the
crazy
wild,
and the
the
wild.
rebellion.
Yeah, the rebellion.
So what happened after that, after you'd signed your life away?
So I signed my life away,
Yeah.
and I said, you know what, Mom? Like, if I want to sign my life away, I'll do it. I'll take a chance. You know?
somehow had a feeling of trust for this
Yeah,
woman.
I just trusted her. Yeah.
Was she trustworthy in the end?
She was trustworthy. She was very trustworthy. Yeah. She
that's
kind
great.
of almost became like my mom.
Right,
She was
yes.
like, we became very good friends, and like
That's
I could tell
wonderful.
her everything, And
That's
my mom was
great.
very controlling and kind of like, like very nervous. She's very
Yeah.
nervous,
Yeah.
by-
My mum was very much like that.
Oh my
Actually,
God,
back in
like-
the day, all the agents were men. when I was modeling. So
interesting.
that was nice. You had a woman
Yeah,
who was
kind of protecting me.
protective. Wow,
Yeah,
that
very
was,
protective,
That was
yeah.
very great.
Yeah,
That was your
yeah,
instinct.
She was watching my back, you know.
Yeah, I think your instinct when you met her, you were like, this one.
Yeah, I was like, I can trust her. And then right away, like they offered me a contract in Paris, you know.
Wow,
And next
like
thing
within
I know,
how much time?
within like a few months, you know, I went to Paris to do Fashion Week, you know, just right after I think I turned 16.
Oh
and then
my
I was
God,
on my way
what
to
was
Paris.
that like?
Looking back, I was very brave, you know. I mean, they asked me, "Do you want your mom to come with you?" And I was just like, "No, I don't want my mom at all." I was just like,
Did you take the sister this time? Or?
"No, just myself," you know.
You just were.
So I remember sitting on the airplane for the first time. I was 16 by myself.
Wow.
And it was an Air France jet, you know, airplane. And I'm just like, I was very excited, a little bit nervous, but more excited, you know, that.
Did you know what was going to happen when
No,
you
I
got
had
that?
no idea. I had no idea. No, I just kind of dived into the unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the driver picked me up from the airport. I went to the agency, and then they were like, "Okay, so now we put on a dress and boots, and let's go." And I'm like, "Where are we going?" And they're like, "We're gonna go meet like, you know, designers." So I met Sonia Riquel on my first day.
Wow.
All the supermodels were around me, and I was like, "Okay," like I was just like, "Okay, this
Was
is
that
cool."
intimidating?
A little bit, but then also like it was just like it happened so
whirlwind,
quickly.
yes,
you know,
you
I was
almost
like,
couldn't.
I went from like the little village, from like everybody's the same
soccer.
and nobody's standing out, and like just a very everybody likes to be in the comfort zone, you know.
Yes.
And here it was just like a wild west, you know, people running around and designers, and it was very exciting, you know, to be
Wow.
like the extreme change.
Could
you
you
know?
sleep that night?
Oh my God! So that day, this is day one in Paris.
Yes.
I got lost.
Oh no.
And I really got lost. My agent, so we had all these meetings, and then she's like, just go to this photographer's house. So she dropped me off with a taxi, and she's like, just take a cab back home, or, you know, take the train. So she left me all by myself with this creepy photographer.
Ugh,
He was very gnarly, you know.
he was, huh?
He was like this
In
French,
what way?
like photographer, bold, gnarly, and just kind of like a little gnarly.
Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you about that because I had a couple of experiences when I was young modeling.
yeah.
One where the photographer walked in the room naked.
Oh,
And I
really?
had to climb out of a bedroom.
No way.
I had to climb out of a bedroom. But so this guy was not,
No,
he
this-
was but just smelly and kind of.
Well, he was giving me like clothing from the floor, like he gave me like a used underwear. He's like, just put this on, and I'm not putting this on, you know.
Yeah, that was something a little like,
Yeah, like,
this guy, he gave me a bunch of like,
Like-
you know, something a little bit
like
sexy. And I was like, what is
Yeah.
this? I didn't like sign up for this.
Yeah.
And I ended up climbing out a window. Luckily, he didn't. He
yeah,
didn't. But
nothing happened.
yeah,
Yeah,
nothing happened.
But the possibility was there.
yeah, the
you know?
possibility.
Yeah.
That's the thing, the possibility.
Oh yeah, like I was like, he was yelling at me. Like bear in mind, this was like 9 p.m. already.
You went
'cause
from heaven to hell, and now this is your first day.
The
and
first
it's
day in
9
Paris,
PM.
yeah, and
you're
I'm
like,
like-
where's my sister?
yeah, where's my sister? Where's my mom? Where's my little, you know, my
Yeah,
dad? I had a
16.
very close relation with my dad, you know, so I was just like,
16.
yeah, I was young. And he's literally like yelling at me. And then he's like, why aren't you focusing the camera? Like, and I'm like, your dog is licking my leg. You made me lay in your disgusting bed. That
Wow.
no shit, you know, like very like, it was all yellow. I mean, it was gnarly.
Oh my god!
And I was just like disgusted, you know. I'm like,
and
what
were
is-
you feeling betrayed by the agent at this point?
I just felt
what-
like a little stranded, you know. I was
Yeah,
like,
stranded.
yeah, I mean, like my agent could have stayed there, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But they were just like, okay, see you later, you know, good luck.
Yeah. You know, when I talked to my agent about that particular photographer showing up naked, he was basically, and I think I was 17.
Yeah.
He was like, basically, well, what's the problem? What difference does it make?
Oh, yeah.
So I
Oh,
realized
yeah.
he had just set the whole fucking thing up.
Yeah, like
my mom
they
would have
were
gone
on
crazy.
Board. Yeah, they were on board. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they knew. And I kind of mentioned it to my agent, and they were kind of like, they were brushing it off. They were like, oh, well, this is a good photographer. You get good pictures out of it, you know? And I felt horrible.
For me, with that experience, even the agents
Mm-hmm.
attesting.
Right.
So you're right in there. You're right into Star Wars, right? Test
Yeah.
allies and enemies.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I told him I'm gonna take a cab back home, like call a taxi. He's like, oh, I'll take you to the train station. So,
No way. At 9 o'clock at night,
it was
after
9,
you
10
had...
p.m. Yeah. Like it was, yeah. Like it was a whole thing. And I remember, and he's like, he would persist. He's like, just take the train. It's easy. I'm
They
like,
were really trying to see what they could get away with, huh?
yeah, I don't know, consciously or unconsciously, you know what I mean? I don't know if they planned it, you know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
feels
But
like that
it
to
kind
me.
of happened, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And then I'm like holding on to him like this, and I was like, he was just so disgusting, you
Oh,
know?
no.
So he dropped me at the train station, and I jump on the train, and I was like, if I'm not gonna get raped on this like 20-minute ride, because it was the outside train
Yeah.
at night, I was like, and I was just like, I remember I was looking down, and I was just like, no eye contact, you know what I mean? I was just like,
God, such an abuse to a
Oh.
younger, you were
yeah.
young.
I mean, I was close to the fire many times, you know?
Yeah.
And then so I'm like looking down, and somehow I made it to Paris, you know?
Wow.
But I was like, I mean, looking back, I was like, that was a little, you know, I was in the moment. I didn't really think about that, but
But it was dodgy, yeah.
it was a little dodgy,
It
you know?
sounds dodgy. I'd have been terrified.
Yeah. And then you know what happened? The universe looking out for me. I'm on the street of Paris, and I couldn't find my address. I was just like trying, and there was no cell phone, you know.
And by now, what is it, 10, 11?
It's like 11 p.m. in Paris, and I had the address written down on a piece of paper. So I get in a cab, and I'm like, hey, can you take me to this address? And the taxi driver is like, "Duh, this is too close, you know, in French. He's like, this is too close, get out of my car. I'm like, listen, this is my first day, I'm lost. He couldn't care, nothing, you know.
Wow.
He literally he's like,
Great
get out.
first day in
I'm
Paris.
like, great. So I'm like, okay, well, but I didn't, you know, I was just like, okay.
How did
Oh,
you
well.
make it to the...
So I'm standing on the street, and I called my agent on the flip phone, you know, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm lost. I don't know where is my home, you know, the address, and can you find me? And it's like, okay, I'm going to find you. So I'm standing on the streets of Paris at like 11 p.m. with my book, wearing high heels and a little dress. And then I'm just like, okay. And then my mom made me bring like a big, you know, tourist map.
Wow.
And I tried to figure out where I am, and I was like, okay, it's not happening. I'm like, I'm going to wait for my agent. So I'm standing there, and somebody walks by and walks back, and he goes like, are you a model? I'm like, something like that. At this point, I was like, whatever. And he's like, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, okay. And he's like, can I see your book? I'm like, sure, right here. I had one picture in it, you know, one picture.
Wow.
And he took it and he's like, okay. And next day, my agency is like, oh my God, Giambattista Valli wants to see you. I'm like, who? I had no idea. And they're
The
like,
universe is so
Giambattista
unbelievable.
Valli, like, you know, he was the designer of Balmain and like this huge haute couture designer. I'm like,
That was a good fingers up to, in
you
a
know what I
way.
mean? So kind of like trusting the universe and going with the flow.
That
you know?
sorted it out, didn't it?
And
Because
it's also like this first day in Paris just like made me like get into
was a
the
wake
game.
up,
You know what I
right?
mean? It was
Get
just
in-
like
yeah.
a test, you know? And I'm very adventurous. So I think that's why also I did so far. Like I went so far, you know? Because I know a lot of girls, they can't take it. Like they can't
Yeah.
take,
You have to
the
be a model,
pressure,
you
the-
have to have a lot of resilience, do you?
yeah, a lot of resilience. Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
It's a jungle.
It's a jungle. Yeah, it's a wild jungle, you know, and you have to know the jungle rules. You have to
What
be
are the jungle rules of being a model? Who to trust, who not to trust.
yeah, who you
How
can trust, how
far.
far you can play the game, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And just it's a game. You know, I think of life as a game, you know.
Right.
You get some coins and you know, you advance, you learn some lessons,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
It's
yeah.
probably good to have a tough streak to survive
yeah.
that game,
Oh, yeah.
because there are a lot of girls that probably don't survive the game.
Oh, I've seen so many girls like, you know, like with food disorders, you know,
Yeah.
girls get addicted to drugs, and
Is that all on
Bad.
offer around that scene? Drugs?
you know, it's
and-
always there.
yeah,
you know,
like in rock and roll. I was in rock,
in rock and roll too.
so
It's
the
always there.
same.
No, like if
always
if
an
you want
option.
it, it's always
Yeah.
there, right? So
And what about the whole weight thing that everybody's always talking about?
the weight?
Who is? You look like a lovely, healthy
Mm-hmm.
weight. You're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but you look healthy. You don't look like anorexic. Who is putting that kind of pressure? Is it agents, designers? Have you ever had anyone say to you, you know, lose some weight?
you know, I've been always very naturally skinny.
Yes.
So I have a good like genetic. I mean, I was
Yeah.
born with a good genetics. Like
Yeah.
I've been always very skinny.
yeah.
But I have to say, I've been always very athletic, So I've been
Right.
always working out,
Yeah.
always taking care of my body. And I think huge part of it that I love my body. And I feel like a lot of girls, they treated it badly. Like it's a short-term rental, and I'm always in for the longer game.
Right.
So I always nourish my body. I
Maybe
take,
being also an athlete at a young
Yeah.
age, playing the soccer and everything.
Oh, that helped me a lot with like the mentality of like thinking long-term, And I
It
was
sounds like you went in with a pretty strong sense of yourself and self-esteem.
Yeah, and when I just started, I have to say I was very shy. But then
Did you learn to play roles in front
Yeah,
of the
I
camera,
mean,
kind of?
looking back on some of my modeling pictures, my first modeling pictures was so shy, and I'm like, oh my god. But then I realized like when I went to this acting coach, like he was my master. I ended up at this acting coach, wonderful acting coach in West Hollywood on Sunset, and then I realized this whole act of learning to be shy, it was my mom. My mom and the projection from my family.
Right.
But naturally, I was very outgoing. You know what I mean?
Vivacious. Yes,
Very
yes.
much outgoing.
You seem
So,
very
you know what I mean?
curious, very
So when I was 16, it was my mom's conditioning,
Imprint, a little bit,
imprinting,
yeah,
like
yeah.
growing up in this small village, this
Yeah.
small community, everybody's looking at you, and if like it's a lot of talk. Oh my god! And did you see what she was wearing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I relate
So-
because I grew up in a small town
You did?
in Southwest London, so I really relate.
And then I like through the modeling gigs, I was like, you know what? I kind of broke and
Yeah.
let myself be free. You know?
At what point did that happen? Was there a moment where you were saying, "This is sink or swim, do or die. I'm just gonna."
It was a process because every photo shoot, every shoot that I did, every campaign, every show that I did, I kind of like I was in the game, I was in the fire, and then because it can be hard on your self-esteem, especially when you're 16. I was very young. So,
Like, what part of it is
like they judge you, you know what I mean? Like
people talk about you behind the
well,
scenes?
no,
or-
like you think you didn't get the job because of you, you know what I mean? But it can be a
Right.
million other reasons, you know what I mean? Like
they just were looking for a different branding
were-
image. Yeah.
yeah, and also like for
So
example,
inner self-talk is if you learn to
yeah.
work with your inner self-talk.
Yeah, like it was a harsh industry and like so many girls around you and like like a lot of competition. So I
Backbiting.
kind of naturally like ended up finding meditation very useful. Like I just like I went to a meditation class in Hungary and I was like, oh my god, I feel great.
So you
after this.
used it like the
Like
healing arts as like
yeah,
a
it was like a yin
counterbalance.
and yang.
Funny,
Exactly.
that's exactly what I did in
No
rock
way.
and roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had my life in rock and roll, and I was like, I got to survive this. And then I was studying with the shamanic healers in the desert. As a model, you were almost more in your masculine self to survive that. Or
Yeah, you have to be.
isn't that interesting? Yet you're portraying the most incredible femininity on on camera. Isn't that
and-
interesting?
Very interesting because I was very tomboyish and very like go 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 go.
Yeah.
And I think another break point for me was when I kind of connected more with my femininity,
Right.
and I was like, you can be feminine energy can be even more powerful.
Did that come through the healing arts, or
Through
was
the
that?
healing,
Or did you have a
through
mentor?
meditation. I had some great teachers, So I kind of explored that side because I always felt like I had to be the strong one, You know what I mean? My dad was playing soccer, so he wanted a boy. He wanted someone to, kind of carry the torch. So when I was young, I always wanted to make him happy or kind of, like I wanted to be like the tough one,
Yeah, no, that's exactly. We got some things in common because I sang rock and roll because my dad loved rock.
Oh, really?
And the first time he saw me in a recording studio
Yeah.
in LA, he was like,
He
"Dear
was the
God!"
happiest. Yeah.
No,
He was
actually,
like-
I think he was actually so shocked when he
Really?
saw me sing at the Whiskey a Go Go.
Oh.
So I can relate
Yeah.
to that. Like I was the eldest daughter and needing to get out in
Get
the
out,
world
yeah.
and
And kind of,
be the one who.
be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were there layers that you had to grow through that early period, moments you remember where you were like, I'm not going to let this take me down? Did you have mentor figures in the fashion world who you love, photographers or?
I think in life we're always, like in the game, leveling up, and we're going through, shedding some layers and becoming a better version of ourselves. So I really strive and aim to be a better version of myself every day,
Beautiful.
and challenge myself every day. So I had some great mentors, some great agents, who were supporting me and making sure that I was on the
Emotionally
right
supporting.
track,
Yeah.
and it was really a journey of self-discovery.
The healing arts, it was a natural, way then to go and do
And
some
do
more
it.
discovery. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the
Yeah.
healing arts.
Okay, let's talk about the healing arts.
You are
Yes.
so passionate about healing
Yeah.
arts. I can
Yeah.
feel that with your
Yeah.
humanitarian work. And tell us about your journey into the healing arts world and everything.
Yeah, so I was very curious about meditation. I also learned theta healing, working with your subconscious mind. I studied meditation in India.
Oh, beautiful. Which part of
So,
India?
I went to Delhi, New Delhi,
Gorgeous.
and then I actually became a meditation teacher in New Delhi, and
Wonderful.
I had some wonderful experiences I had some incredible visions, and just for like 4 weeks I was meditating. I was
Wow,
very
for a whole month.
yeah, and it made me realize that like we're so powerful. Like for example, like the beginning, they're like, okay, we're gonna meditate for 4 hours, and I was like, 4 hours? I'm like, impossible. Because I mean, I am believing, but I was like, 4 hours is a little stretch. And believe it or not, you are sitting on the floor meditating. Time goes by so quickly.
You found a real peace that
Real
you
peace.
hadn't
Yeah.
found before?
Yeah, yeah, and then I also facilitate access bars classes, which is a
Access
relaxation technique.
bar? Oh, yeah. What is
Yeah,
that?
it's
Because I'm not sure what it is.
yeah. I know a lot of people are like, "What is it?"
Yeah.
I was very lucky because I learned it in Hungary,
Mm,
and it's basically 32 points on your head,
gosh.
and by lightly touching it, it relaxes your nervous system like there's no I mean, it's
Almost like a
incredible.
cranial.
Similar, and it just like
It
knocks
sounds
you out.
wonderful.
Yeah, and someone is doing it for you, like you do it on another person. It's very nurturing. And I went to this class in January, and December I was embarking on this humanitarian journey in Nepal. And like the light bulb moment was like, oh my God, I think maybe I could teach this to these young girls.
Gosh,
Like, oh my
that's
God.
beautiful.
And then I was like, okay, how do I become a teacher? I was like, I want to learn now.
Wow.
And so, like, in a few months, I became a facilitator of this technique. So I was able to teach to these young girls. They have a lot of traumas, like
Right.
sexual abuse, sex
Yes.
trafficking, family abuse. Sometimes it's their father abusing them.
Absolutely awful.
So they have all these like awful things happening to them.
I saw your documentary, on your
Yeah.
website. I was so moved
Oh,
that you had the passion and the power to want to go and deliver this beautiful healing arts, this healing to them. It was really powerful.
oh, thank you. Yeah. I just asked the question, like, how can I be a contribution to these young girls? Because bringing some money and raising some funds, it's wonderful. But I just truly asked the question, like, okay, how can I be the contribution to these young girls? How can I give them something that is long lasting that they can use for long term, and can make an impact. So
I
came
think
up.
also the fact, from the footage, I could see how much you were such a bright light to them. How you, this apparition of beauty and strength and resilience, it must have really made an impact.
Oh, yeah.
We don't always remember how much of an impact we're
Oh.
making on people. But
Yeah, and just by your presence too,
Yeah.
Like I was there, and I remember one of the girls, I was doing this interview with this one girl who was very sweet,
Mm.
and I was so moved by her story. And she was abused. She was forced to get married at 13. She was then abused by her husband. And basically, this family made her a slave. They made her carry rocks at a construction building. The family got paid, and then they didn't give any money to her. Just like she
Wow,
went
that
through
is
this like
terrible.
hardship, hell. She went through hell.
She went through
And then I'm
hell.
talking to her, and she's like, yeah. And then finally, I went back to my mom and dad, and they were like, listen, we don't have money for you. You gotta go find a job. She tried to get a job. They abused her. Like it's just a vicious cycle. She went to get a job 3 times. The same thing happened, and then finally she got connected with this organization that helps her. And so there I am talking to this girl who's always smiling, very happy, and I was like, wow, that's truly incredible. You came so far, and you didn't let anything break you. And she's like, yeah, it's the past is the past, and I'm moving forward. So she told me she's working at this bakery now. And I was like, that's wonderful. And I'm like, where's the bakery? I want to come check it out. She's like, well, it's like 20 minutes from home. I'm like, send me the address. I kid you not. Like, I showed up the next morning, and like she was crying because I showed up. I'm
Oh,
crying because
wow.
she thought I'm not gonna show up because nobody ever showed up in her life.
Oh,
Like
wow.
people just flaked on her, and even her own parents, they didn't care. She showed me around. I'm like, maybe the next time I come back to Nepal, you'll have your own bakery. And her mind goes like, and I could see she was like, what? Like it was such a foreign thing for her. It's just me being there, showing up for her, caring about her, listening to her story. And her mind went like from this to like, okay, I can have my own bakery. Okay, like I saw her mind and her whole being goes like boom.
That is so magical that you were
Yeah.
the one to plant the
Oh,
seed.
yes.
You're planting seeds.
Yeah.
Were there stories there that made you cry or that you found were so shocking?
Walking into this, I didn't know how I'm gonna feel. I had no idea. I just went into it with a blank space. And to be honest with you, I didn't cry. Hearing these girls' stories just made me inspired. And that's why I decided I would love to, just be the voice for them, and that's why I love to, share the word around about them and what they went through, because for me, it was so inspiring, having these conversations with these 14, 15, 16-year-old girls,
Yes.
and I recognize the warrior in them, and it
It's
doesn't
absolutely
matter.
the greatest joy, isn't it?
Oh.
To hold hands with someone else who's there in the storm, and
Yeah.
you can see their fire
Yeah.
to come through it.
Yeah.
It's so
So that
beautiful.
moment for me, like apart from my modeling or my acting career or my, that moment right there when I was just with these young girls, I was like, just like, you know what, this is life. This is what life is about. Like if I can do this, if I can empower one girl, or if I can inspire, like 10 girls, 100 girls, just anyone, life is worth living.
So that's now a mission for you, isn't
Yes.
it? To grow that and to go back to
Absolutely.
Nepal or to other
Absolutely.
places. What was the name of that organization?
So that name is a Chori. It's called Chori, which means daughter in Nepalese.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And didn't you hook up with a lady in Italy
Yes.
who introduced you to Chori? What was the name
Yeah.
of that
Yeah,
organization?
that organization is Protection for Kids.
Protection for
So
Kids.
I'm actually their ambassador for Protection for Kids. Yeah. And then
you're a beautiful
yeah.
ambassador. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I think beauty is God given, or you are born with with what you have. So
Yes.
I believe truly that I was born with this, so I can inspire others. I can use my beauty for good things. You know what I mean? Because when you're attractive, you attract a lot of things, good and bad, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes it attracts the wrong people around you, or you know what I mean?
Any power that you have, what I realize, it does come with a lot of responsibility,
Oh, yeah.
doesn't it? Because, like you said, you can use it for the good or the bad,
Or the bad and the ugly. Yeah.
and the ugly. And I've actually been to Nepal once, and I went to Bhutan, but I was really inspired by it. I was like, what a force, what an energy.
Yeah, in fact, I just finished writing a script, so I'm working on putting a movie together.
Really? Is it about your journey there, or?
It's an action drama, but it is inspired by some of this humanitarian work that I worked with, and some of the young girls' stories, which actually is a crazy story because I wrote the script before I went to Nepal, and I just, made up these characters, you know what I mean? Like I was inspired by some of the stories that I've heard,
Right.
that happen.
Yeah.
And when I went to Nepal, I met my characters in real life.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God.
The
like,
laws of attraction,
yeah,
right?
I was just like, wow. And all these girls are like warriors. Like my character, in the script, she's a warrior. She went through hell, but she's coming out of it, and she never ever gives up her spirit, She doesn't let anyone break her spirit.
I'm right with you.
So
Right with you. Never
stay
let them
tuned.
break you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stay tuned.
So
yeah.
how has that process been going of It's not easy, the craft of
easy.
writing.
Yeah.
Do you have a co-writer, or are you just doing it on your own?
I'm
or?
just doing it on my own, And, being beautiful can be a good thing, and sometimes in Hollywood they don't take you seriously, you know?
Yes.
That was the same thing. They thought I cannot act. She's just a model, you know what I mean? So I had to break out from this she's just a model category, right?
When I was growing up in London, I got a scholarship to go and study acting. And
Yeah.
I always remember at one point I was modeling. I went to Rome and the headmistress called me down and she, in her office, and at the time, you know, I was very young, I was 18, and she said, "Darling, you're so pretty. Do you really want to be an actress? Actresses aren't that pretty." That's what she actually said
No
to
way.
me. It was almost like she
Really?
was saying, and I it was the greatest job ever. I was actually going to the World Cup in Rome to
Oh.
walk around the arena with the Colosseum on my head.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a great.
That sounds a lot of
It was
fun.
so much fun, and I
Yeah.
got paid so much money. It
Yeah,
was so
just to do
brilliant.
that.
Yeah,
you're
you
like,
know.
okay.
And but she was kind of saying, if you want to go that way, there's the door. It was, you know, so people can be tough, right?
Yeah,
so
people
I
can be tough.
I
yeah.
get that.
I started with the modeling, you know,
Yeah.
so it made me very ruthless, you know, like very resilient,
Protective of yourself, probably.
very protective, you know,
Yeah.
and but I don't like to close myself off. I like
No.
to, you know, be open, you know.
Because you come across as very open in your photographs.
Yeah.
Are you playing roles when you're being photographed? That's what I'm.
Yeah, like I think I was always, whenever I was modeling, I was always playing characters.
That's
And like
what I got.
my modeling
actually, yeah.
agents, they always told me like I always look on every single picture. I look different, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Like I can look like a boy or a
Mm.
femme fatale or you know. So I realized that I was always playing characters, and then so later on when I ended up with this wonderful acting coach, I realized, oh shit, I was always doing this. you
That's
know?
what I was getting
know what I
actually
mean?
from watching you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love to play. I
Yeah.
think playing is the greatest, you know, and you know that, like you know,
Yeah.
playing and playing songs and having fun and
Gets you outside of yourself, doesn't
having
it?
that little like playful spirit, you know what I mean? Like a kid, you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
okay, let's play.
Tell me about the contract.
The contract was shot in Italy.
Right.
I played a female detective.
I
And-
like it. I like
and
your.
it's about like the devil and the temptation and how far people are willing to go to be successful. You know what I mean?
And you've witnessed that, right?
oh yeah,
in-
first row.
yeah,
Yeah, it was like with the popcorn. You know.
Yeah, first row.
I've
with-
seen a lot of, you know, like, you know, temptation coming
Yeah.
into people's lives, you know.
How far will people go? I
Yeah.
think they call that in the spiritual Wiccan thing, the crossroad.
The crossroad.
What are you prepared to give up?
Right.
The crossroad.
And recently I had I lost my home in the fire,
Yes.
you know, so
Yes, I was so sorry.
yeah, that was another thing for me, like a challenge. It was it's been a very challenging time, but
As an immigrant, somebody who's moved around the world, is home very important to you?
yeah. And then finally I had a home, you know, in Malibu, and I said, this is my home and this is my space and this is my I created this beautiful sanctuary in my backyard, you know, the Malibu sanctuary, you know, where I
Yes, yeah,
host
I read it.
yoga retreats, meditation retreats, and private sessions, you know. It was really like a safe place for me, you know. And when January came, you know, in 1 minute, you know, or like overnight, we lost everything, you know.
Everything, right?
But
Was
when
there some grief to start with?
first I was shocked. I remember it was just like a big blur, you know.
Were you at the house and had to leave, or were you traveling?
No, I was traveling. I was writing my script in Joshua Tree in the
So you
desert.
had no chance to get anything out.
No,
So everything.
everything went. You know, my favorite leather jackets, my boots, and just like my piano, my guitar, like things that I just paintings, like one of a kind paintings that are hard to replace. But it's not just the value; it's the emotional value, right?
Yeah, of course.
And the feeling of home. You know, the stability or the safety.
Because even us warrior women, we need home, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah. It made me realize the simple things and appreciate even more the simple things in life. I know it sounds crazy, but it just made me so fearless. Like
It
I have
did,
nothing
huh?
to lose. Because
You've lost everything.
I lost my home. I lost my favorite everything. So you have
Wow.
you're like bulletproof, you know? Like
Did you cry?
oh yeah, I cried. Losing all of that was just like incredible. But don't look back, you know, we're going forward. And then sometimes in life too, you know, you think about the past or this or that. Doesn't matter. We're going forward, you know. Keep looking forward. You know what I mean?
The fire.
Yeah. My kickboxing coach, you know, he's like, just stay in the fight. You know, just stay
Oh,
in the
I love
fight.
that. I used to do boxing.
You know, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stay in the fight, you know.
Talking
Yeah.
about like with the fires, when you lose everything, there's also no static and there's no strings.
Right.
And you're just in that rebirth process.
Yeah.
That's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah. Very liberating. And also you have to be in the moment.
Yes.
And it just connected me with my inner power even more. And it's been still very challenging. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been, we had some, you have some,
You got to find a whole new place. You said you had to come an hour and a half today
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're in West Hollywood.
Oh yeah, we couldn't find a place. Everything happened so quickly. So we found this, a friend of ours. He's an actor, Italian actor. So we're staying at his. It's a beautiful apartment in West Hollywood, but it's not Malibu,
Right.
I mean,
Do you
it's just,
like the nature?
I
out
love
in
the nature. You know what I mean?
Malibu.
I love the nature in Malibu and the groundedness, and there's more space.
It's
right?
a nice buffer, isn't it? Also
Yeah.
from the industry. And
Yeah, it's a nice little get away from it all,
Yeah.
So then there I am after the fire. This major thing just happened, and I'm like, okay, trying to navigate through this, right? And some days it was, like good and bad days, but I try to have a positive mindset. Universe, show me what else is possible. Like, okay, like what else can I create? Where else can I go? You know what I mean? So
Well, they do say that it's only when you're really cracked that, I think that's a Jungian quote, the light can come in.
and come in.
So what about the acting? This is obviously your big passion
Yeah.
right now. Where are you with all that?
After so many years of being just the model, I had all this creativity, and I was like, I love music. I played the piano when I was younger as a kid, and so I just realized I'm an artist. I love performing, I love writing, and I love creating, Then I wrote a short film, I made it happen, I produced it, I directed it, you know what I mean? A lot of people told me, like, you're crazy for doing a short film, you can't do it, why are you doing, you know what I mean? Like, every time that you do something different,
That's really
people question
yours.
you, like,
No, when I went into rock and roll, the producers I knew in Hollywood, they thought I was insane.
yeah.
Insane.
right?
Yeah.
They thought I was insane. They're like, you're going to make a short film? I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. And they're like, you can't make a short film unless you have this budget. And I never listened to that.
And there's something actually about being an iconic beauty and having all this stuff projected on you and doors flowing open. When we start to kind of use our own creative muscle, sometimes it's a little humbling to start with. And people are like, but hang on a moment.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be
like that.
the mirror, the muse. So I've struggled with that sometimes, really bringing my own voice forward, I realized at a certain point, actually, I was always behind a mask. It was either, being beautiful for camera or being behind a script or a song or and I suddenly, at a certain point, I realized, and actually that was one of the things that came up through the fires.
Oh.
Because I was always used to these big budgets to look really beautiful,
to
like
make
on
you
an
look,
album cover or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I realized, okay, I don't have those big budgets.
Right.
I just get the iPhone and start doing whatever I got to do.
Yeah.
And it was very vulnerable to start with.
Yeah.
But now I love documenting and just, like getting out from behind the script and that creative flow, whatever that is.
Right.
Whether it's a podcast
It's creating,
or a song or a conversation,
right?
I
mean, look at you starting this podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you.
This is like creating, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you think like, oh, we can't do that, or like it seems too big, But when you you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, big budget.
The key is, I think, when you first start creating something, is to get over the perfect thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just-
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's
Tell
where
me more.
I think people like you and I, we use the fire to propel ourselves over that. But I think growing up in Europe, we have this wonderful passion for conversation. So I think podcasting is a real natural. We'd love to sit around, right?
We
Do
love
they
to
do
sit
that
around
in
and have a great
Hungary
conversation.
and
Yeah.
Rome? And
Yeah, and have a great chat and challenge each other. You know what I mean? And just like exchange ideas.
Exchange
and talk about
ideas.
life.
And you're thinking about starting a podcast, right?
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I'm in the desert riding, right? And I wanted to start this podcast. So I have my podcast mic and my like neon light, and the camera and everything. So I'm like, I'm gonna do some episode in the desert. The fire happens. So like honestly, like I don't have many things that survive the fire, but I have my mic, the camera, and the sign of the podcast survive with me. And I was like, okay, if this is not a sign,
That's what
I
I was
don't know
about
what
to say.
it
If that
you
is
know?
not a sign,
I know.
you got to start
I
the
know.
podcast. I can
know.
come and be your first guest. if
Yeah,
you want.
please.
You can
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
so I'm working on putting it together, you know what I mean? And it's also like, it doesn't have to be perfect, giving
No, but
yourself
that's
the
the key,
permission to
yeah.
just like do it,
Giving yourself the permission, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about you trained at the Lee Strasberg?
Lee Strasberg Academy.
Yeah, so you love method acting.
I learned some method acting. Yes, I enjoyed it. You know, then I had a wonderful teacher called Rick Walters. You know, he was my mentor. You know, and he really made me fall in love with storytelling. You know, and performing more than anything.
What aspects do you particularly love?
Yeah, it's very real. You
Very
know,
real.
he's just very real. He's like get down to the bone of it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's very real. You know, he was the one who made me realize that there's nobody like you, right? So he's like, he had a saying. He's like, out of like millions of sperms, you are the one who made it. You know,
Wow.
it's you who
Yeah.
made it. So you're a winner. So you already won. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you are already ahead of everybody else. And there's nobody like you. So he's like, you're a unique being, right? He was teaching that, you know, there are people who are group and non-group. Basically, people who are non-group like you and me, we say what we mean. We're like honest, you know, we outgoing, we say it as it is,
There
right?
are hearts on our sleeves. Yeah. Yeah.
And then our moms are like more the group, you know, like they group
Yes.
up to fit in the society, to say
Yes.
what they want to hear, to pretend like, you know, my mom used to do this, like guests are coming over and she's like, you know, and the guests come in like, oh, what a lovely family, you know,
Right.
we love each other, and
Sweep
like,
it under the rug.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and then they leave back to like normal, you know.
Yeah.
And
I grew up with a lot of that.
That's why I never fit in. Like in Paris, I was always on hold for Dior for the show, always exclusive hold for years. And I would always go there and I meet the casting lady and na. But for some reason, I never got it. And then I remember standing in line, you know, with all the other models. And now looking back, I think I stand out, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
when I'm in a line, like I stand out. You want to look at me, you know what I mean?
And they wanted someone more
They
that
wanted
would.
someone more to blend in, you know
Blend
what I
in.
mean? And more like, you know.
And
not-
so maybe your next chapters,
yeah.
you know,
so
that
in this
fire
chapter,
can come really through.
Oh, yeah. And in films, you know what I mean? That's what they're looking for, someone to stand out and
spark.
carry a role, you know,
Yes.
lead role, you know what I mean? So,
When I was a young actress, I suffered from really, really bad anxiety.
oh,
And I was once on a movie set for Columbia Pictures in North Africa. And I was playing the Empress. I was 24 and I was all dressed up, and it was Brian Brown was there. And I was so utterly terrified. We were filming in a coliseum. We had gladiators and fan bearers and the whole thing. I was so utterly terrified. I think I had a crazy panic attack. And Brian Brown, you know, that Aussie actor, he was like, listen, Zoe, it's not Shakespeare. Just sell it like you're Kentucky Fried Chicken. I gave myself such a hard time on that film set. And years later, whose scene did they use as the trailer? Mine.
no way.
But you know what? When you're
Yeah.
young, like, you don't always see the genius in the simplicity. So
Right.
it's very important, I think, for artists to try and internally, you know, and I even quit acting and went into, you know, singing. Do you have techniques for performance anxiety?
Yeah, like I try to ground myself as much as I can, you know what I mean?
Ground, right.
Grounding, you know, and for me,
Feel the
like
feel
when
the
I'm in my
floor?
body, like
Yeah.
exercising, you know, like before I go on set, I always work out and I exercise, so I feel grounded. You know what I mean? Like breathing techniques really help me, you know, when I'm like anxious or you know, like when there's a lot going on, you know, and really just remembering that be in the present moment. I'm here right now, and I'm gonna do my best. Some days I can be really overwhelmed with so many things to do. You know what I mean? And I just remind myself, you're doing the very best you can.
I wanted to ask you a question actually about beauty.
Tell
Do
me.
you ever, maybe it's something I just get,
Yeah.
but because I modeled when
Yeah.
I was young, as I say, not to the extent you did, but because I was doing photo shoots, even in the rock and roll years with very glamorous photographers,
Right.
I have a real fear of being ugly on camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as a performer, you know, and I have this line now, and everyone says I should Botox it out. Do you ever get a fear of being ugly on camera or no?
You know, it's a bit strange because
Yeah.
so most models they cannot be good actors because they're
Because-
afraid of not looking pretty.
Right.
So I really don't care. Like
Yeah.
I mean, like I just don't have that in me, you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, of course, you know, at the beginning I was concerned of how I look in the camera or letting myself be vulnerable. That was a
Yeah.
huge thing for me because in modeling they train you to be perfect and you're always smiling and you never
Yeah.
complain, you know, like they train you to be a good model. you know?
Right. That's the agents, is it? Or
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah. You like,
They
whatever.
groom you. Yeah.
Never complain. Don't be the problem. You know what I mean? They just kind of like, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
like always put a smile on. Maybe your high heels are killing you, but let's have fun and let's have a great show. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's the
So
cost. Yeah.
yeah. So then being totally vulnerable and letting yourself be hurt or be crying on camera, like that was a huge stepping stone for me to be
A
able
shift. Yeah.
to be vulnerable and like it is okay not to be okay.
Convey negative
know?
emotions as well as positive.
Yes, because I was very like, almost like I had like a wall or something like, like a natural instinct to be perfect and, always look good. And, then it took me some time to let go of that,
Let go
and
of
just
the wall and
be okay with like being vulnerable or like
Yeah.
letting others see that I'm crying. I'm not feeling good. Today
Yeah.
I'm not feeling, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
normal to be human.
Because even with like the podcasting, like the last round, the show I was shooting, Follow Your Bliss, I had a crew of, there were a lot of people on hair and makeup, and now
like
it's all
makeup.
changed. Even, here I'm like, oh my God, know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that can be when you've modeled part of the test of the ride to just rip down that wall and
Rip down
Yeah.
the wall and then
Have you had
know,
to cry on camera?
Yes,
Was it easy?
it really depends. I think working with a director is like a creative partnership. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And some directors, they are very like vocal. Some directors are more gentle. You know what I mean? So it's like it's going on a dance, right? Like you're dancing with someone.
I think that's a really good instinct.
Yeah,
You think of Penelope Cruz with what was
with Almodovar.
Yeah, I often think creative people do
Yeah.
best in like a dolphin pod,
Yeah, like
you
a
know,
little pod. Yeah,
yeah, a little
exactly.
pod.
Like a little creation pod.
And I think it usually starts with, oh, I love this person's films.
Mm-hmm.
What is the big dream now? What are you calling in from the universe?
I would love to make this film. So that's one
The film
project.
that you've written, yes.
The film that I've written. It's just a heartfelt story,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on that, and I may have a podcast coming out soon.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
I'll be happy to come and talk about anything
I think
you
I'll
like.
just jump into it,
Yes, go for it.
Yeah.
That's the only
yeah.
way to do it in
Exactly,
the end, right?
just going for it. Yeah.
Just like jumping in and
Exactly. And yeah, and I'm very excited also to be in this town because there are so many talented people,
yeah.
so many talented musicians, artists, So it's just a very
I love Los Angeles.
I
What
love
do you
Los
like?
Angeles.
So you just love the
loved it.
creativity.
I love the creativity. When I was living in New York before, and I came out here for an acting class for 2 weeks, and I just felt like home,
Yeah.
And I never felt like home before. Like I was always on the go. I was living in London, in,
Wow,
in
there
New
you
York,
go.
and a little bit Paris, Milan. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I felt like ooh, and then I never went back to New York. I kind of moved here.
That's how it feels to me. It
Yeah.
feels like this incredible space. I've received so much warmth and help here.
yeah.
And I mean, it's so utterly beautiful. We have the ocean, we
Right.
have the mountains,
Right.
and we have this incredible creative community
Yeah.
of people from all over
From
the world.
all over the world. Yeah.
It's so cosmopolitan.
It's amazing. Yeah. And
Yes.
even in the fire, like I received so much support.
yeah.
Like everybody's like Los Angeles people are so flaky and they
No.
don't care about you and they what I mean? They only care about themselves. No. Actually people really showed up. The community showed up like never before,
I feel like that. Did
Yeah.
you feel like you made really good friends or got a stronger sense of the community through?
Yeah. Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I really feel
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And I think through hardship, you know what I mean? When you're going through a hard time, like the pandemic was like a harder time, for all of us, you truly find out, and the same thing happened with the fire. You find out your true friends and, like you just support each other. And even in Malibu, there's such a great community,
Such a community,
right?
right?
So we bump into each other in the coffee shop,
and
what
the
I mean?
next minute we're sitting here.
Yeah, the next minute we're sitting here, and then then we bump into each other again at the restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I hope, for you with your home, I hope it all comes back together in an even more beautiful way. Or, I hope one day you're sitting in your home and you're like, okay, well, it still feels as beautiful and sacred, or even more so. I'm sorry you lost
Oh
your
yeah,
home.
yeah. I think once we have everything ready to go, I'll be like, you know what, this was a wild ride. It's a
Yes.
wild experience, but
Yeah.
it will be even more beautiful.
Yes.
I believe in that.
I'm looking forward to you really being back in the neighborhood. and being able to say, hey, want to come and have a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the most lovely, gorgeous, fiery, fabulous artist and woman. And I know I'm going to be seeing you in some amazing TV shows. And I can feel your inner spirit. And you have like such a beautiful journey ahead. And I'm really excited.
Thank you
to
so
see
much.
how that unfolds.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. Thank you for doing this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It
thank
was a pleasure
you.
to be part of.
This was a wonderful conversation.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Zoe. Yes,
you.
thank you guys.